Hi Stampers, I'm Meg from Loven Stamps, and for the wonderful romance project I'm going to share with you, we are doing sort of a home decor frame. So it has a neat standalone frame background, but I'm going to give you a bunch of tips on this for watercoloring. Now, when you use a really gorgeous line art image like this that is just begging to be colored in, you can kind of go two different directions. You could go with Stampin' Blends, which are the alcohol markers to color them in, or you could go with watercolor, which would use a classic ink refill, and then some kind of water to do the watercoloring, whether a brush or an aqua painter or a blender pen. So I am going to give you some tips for doing a watercolor version of this gorgeous line art, and I'll also teach you how to make the freestanding frame for this, because this is a really fun and simple home decor gift item. So let's grab our supplies and let's get stamping. Wonderful Romance is a great stamp set for doing home decor pieces, and included in the kit are a backing piece and the background layer, which is the tag board from a piece of Designer Series paper. And so this is cut to 6 by 6, and then this is actually just 2 by 6. And to make the background, what I'm actually going to do is kind of estimate a diagonal on my Simply Scored tool and go ahead and score this from one diagonal to the other. If it's not absolutely exactly diagonal, that's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and set that up, and then remember, if I've scored on this side, I'm going to fold this direction. Okay, that's true of your cards too. I know a lot of people ask that question, which direction should I be folding? And then this is going to go on the back of our frame piece, okay? Just right in the center. It doesn't matter at this point because I have nothing on the front, which is going to be the front or the back, but I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on one of these two triangle panels. And I like to use tear tape for this. You can also use fast fuse. You just want a really strong adhesive so that you have a really strong bond there. The harder you push the backing down, the easier it is to get off. So, and then I'm going to take this and just like with it totally flat, I'm going to line it up in the center here of our panel and go ahead and smush that side down. So now when I fold back on that score line and set it up, then I have a freestanding frame piece, okay? So this is going to be the background for our frame. All right, it's really simple, right? I love how easy that is. Now let's look at the pieces in our Stamps in the Mail Club kit. So we have a scallop circle piece that's going to get layered on here, and we have a piece of Designer Series paper, the pretty vellum here, and then a square of Whisper White cardstock. So the very first thing that has to go on here is this little stamped piece on the bottom right hand corner. It's pretty subtle. And then the next thing that's going to go on here is our lace, and you can kind of look and see which side is the printed side you think should show up on the front. It's pretty tricky to tell, which means it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to add this scallop circle here, and the reason that I'm doing this is because I want to go ahead and adhere the scallop circle, and then it's going to give me some information about where I can place my adhesive on my vellum, okay? Because I don't want to put adhesive all over like the top and all those places because I don't want it to show. And so I'm going to pop some strips of tear tape on here, and I'm pretty safe here at the top because I know that our big floral spray is going to cover a lot of this. So again, the harder you push the adhesive down, the easier it is to get the backing strip off. And then I'm going to go ahead and line this up with the top of my paper and go ahead and put this down, okay? So now we have the background set for our project. So the next thing is to work with our die cuts, and I'm going to give you a tool. This is the most common question that I get from people about coloring things. So if you are going to use water as your coloring medium, to use an aqua painter or a blender pen or a watercolor brush, you want to use StazOn ink because this is alcohol based and it won't run when you go over it with water. Okay, so aqua painter and StazOn go together. That's what I'm going to use here. But if you are using Stampin' Blends to do your coloring, you want to use you want to use a Memento ink pad. So these Stampin' Blends are alcohol-based, which means you want to stamp in a water-based ink, and that will not run when you go over it with the alcohol markers. Make sense? So Memento goes with Stampin' Blends, Stays On goes with watercolor. Okay? So that was my little service project announcement here. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamps here in Stays On ink, which is the alcohol ink, and go ahead and stamp here on our die cuts. And when I stamp these, I like to stamp upside down because they're pre-die cut and it's easier to line them up. So just go ahead and ink up your stamp, lay your die cut across the top, and then just use a larger block to go ahead and press it down so you get a nice image. Okay, so I'm going to do the same on my big piece here. All right, and then I can go back with my ink and watercolor. So if you're using the older style of the classic pad, you can just squish them a little bit so that the bottom or the lid and the pad actually contact each other and give you that nice pool of ink. If you're using one of the newer style ink pads, these are just a little bit firmer, and so it's hard to get that, it's hard to squish them enough to get the lid to touch there. So my strategy for that is honestly just to take another clear block or a stamp case, and I just smush my block right into it. So then this becomes a giant ink palette. So then I can use my aqua painter and pick up color there and go ahead and use that to color in my flowers. So with the aqua painters, I find that I like to use the smaller tip. When you get a package, there's actually two there, and one of them has a larger tip that has a little bit bigger water flow than the other. So for things like this that are super detailed, I find myself almost always using the smaller tip. When I do projects that have like a big background color wash, then I like to use the bigger tip aqua painter. But that's why there's two in the package, in case you never noticed. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my fresh fig and add some color here for my other flowers. Now, actually, I'm going to pause and clean off my aqua painter. You're better off to do your lighter colors first when you're doing this because I'm just going to run that out. You don't want to draw that color across into the lighter color. So I'm going to go ahead and do my background here first. And since we're using Whisper White cardstock, you want to avoid going over this a billion times with water because the paper can start to pill a little bit. So you want to kind of try to be kind of deliberate in getting your color where you want it and then just spreading the color from there. So I'm gonna go to the base of all these leaves and add the deepest color at the base because that's where the shadow would be falling, and then work out towards the tips to add this a little bit more color. So okay, so as we get our coloring all finished up, then I'm going to bring back in the piece here. And on my original piece, I used the greeting, "You're the best thing I never knew I needed," which is a really fun greeting. But I am going to use from the Strong and Beautiful, I'm going to use this one that says, "God made you my mother, love made you my friend." And this oval fits best if you turn it the opposite direction. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that in fresh fig and go ahead and stamp that. And shocker, I will probably share this card with my mom. And I have to show you, so my mom gets stamps in the mail club, so she makes these kits, which is really fun. And then I have to show you a picture. So this is my mom and I at the Stampin' Up on stage last November. So isn't she cutie? So it was in Orlando, so we had our Mickey Mouse ears on for that. But we have such a good time together. So anyway, I love you, Mom. Okay, so to add this, I'm going to go ahead and pop a couple of Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. And then I'm going to start to assemble all of our pieces. And I wanted to show you a little bit about how those go together. So you would put this greeting on maybe the other direction if you're using the one from the actual stamp set. And then they're just to kind of position things and get an idea of where things are going to fit. We have our die cuts that are going to go here. But what we want to do before we add those things is go ahead and get our lace piece on. So I'm going to show you a tip for that. And I like to use tear tape with the lace. And so just probably about there, I'm going to go ahead and add a strip of tear tape. And as I like to say, the harder you push it down, the easier it is to get the backing off. And then I'm going to start our lace strip kind of over here on the left. And I'm going to start it at an angle. So when I do ruffles, usually what I'd like to do is kind of angle my ribbon going down, and then I twist it and angle my ribbon going up, and then angle my ribbon going down, and then press it in and angle up, and press it in and angle down, press it in, up, press it in, down, press it in, up, press it in, etc. until I get to the end, and then usually I just kind of tail off to the side. So that way you have a really easy way to add kind of a pretty ruffle to the bottom of your project. And then our die cut piece here, I'm going to start to position some of these other die cut leaves from the set under it. And I'm just going to set these kind of out to the side where I think I want them, and pop this one down here. This littlest one I'm going to save to go with our little embellishment here for the top. And so now that I've kind of got those set where I want them, what I can do is I can start to look at where I can pop dimensionals that will be hidden. So this dimensional is going to get hidden under the side there. This dimensional is going to get hidden here. These ones here make me a little bit nervous, so we'll kind of see where they come out. But what I've done now is set that up so that I can just layer this die cut piece on top of it, and all of my flower or leaf petal pieces in the background will be held on by dimensionals. Okay, so now this is going to layer across here. And if yours is in a little different place for your Stamps Mail Club kit, that's totally fine. The pieces here that I'm going to add, I'm going to do probably here with some mini glue dots because they're a little bit smaller and I don't want them to pop up quite so high. So I'm going to pop this guy here, and then I'm going to add a folded glue dot. Sometimes I say like a taco fold or a taquito, someone pointed out the other day, since it's so little. I'm going to pop this on top and hang this in here. Okay, and then we come to our linen thread. And the braided linen trim is great because it's so much thicker than just the linen thread. It has a much more, it just has a stronger appearance because it's so large. But what I'm going to do is double it even more. So I'm gonna take this and fold it in half and then tie my bow. So I have both thicknesses of the braided trim, and what that does is it just bulks up the ribbon and makes it that much more prominent. So I'm going to take this and sort of squish down my bows. I really like for bows like this for the loops to be small, and then this is actually my cut end here. You could cut that before you tie it if you want to. And if you don't get your bow in the middle, you can always retie it. But that is a nicer shape and size to go with the size of this 6x6 art piece. And so for this, you could use mini glue dots, but I think honestly a piece of tear tape is going to be the best choice because I can put it all the way across that bow there in the back. Like I said, the harder you push it down, the easier to get the back off. This is the trickiest place to get the backing off of this though, because the fibers on the ribbon want to run a little bit away with you. Okay, and there we have our bow added. Then we have a spray here of our leaves that we colored, and I'm just going to pop a dimensional on the back of that to put it down here. And then I'm going to position it so that it leaves me a place to put my gold seal. And these do have adhesive on the back, but I'm finding that I just like to enhance that. So you can use a couple mini glue dots, or you could even use a piece of tear tape. These Floral Romance seals are so much fun. I love them on both cards and little home decor pieces. They're just kind of a nice touch to add to something. And they look really real. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, is that a wax stamp? So there is our art piece, and the last thing you're going to do is go ahead and pop tear tape on the back of it so that you can mount it on your frame. Now, at the beginning I said that you don't have to worry about which direction your stand is facing because there's nothing on the stand when you're attaching that that back piece, but now it matters. So figure out like which direction it's gonna stand. So it's gonna stand this way. So I'm gonna make sure that I add my art piece to it like this. And I really kind of like to stand them up together and just bring them together so that I know that they align nicely at the top, which is where everyone's eye will go most frequently for a piece like this. So there is our standing frame. And I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, aunts, all important people in our lives. So remember, you can use the greeting from the stamp set, or you can embellish this with a greeting of your choice. So hope you have enjoyed some of the tips that I shared with this project, and you can check my blog for other home decor freestanding art frame project ideas, or for Stamps in the Mail Club at lovenstamps.com. And I look forward to sharing more projects with you soon. Thanks so much for watching, and happy stamping.